You did everything right. You worked harder than the person next to you. You stayed later. You sacrificed weekends, relationships, sleep. You gave what most people would not give, and nothing moved. Not in the way you expected. Not in the way you were promised. That was not bad luck. That was not timing. That was not the economy or the market or the wrong industry. That was design. You were never inside a system built for you to win. Let that land for a moment. You were inside something you never examined. This is not blame. It is design. So let us begin. There is a contract. You have felt it your entire working life, even if you have never seen it written down anywhere. The contract was simple. Work hard, stay loyal, advance. You followed the contract precisely, and still arrive somewhere else. When you work hard, you become useful. But notice what usefulness does within a structure that employs you. It makes you necessary to someone else's purpose, their purpose, not yours. Your effort, directed at their goal, at their timeline, at their metric for success. The harder you work, the more indispensable you become to a system that belongs to someone else, and there is a subtle gravity in that indispensability. It holds you in place. Income can rise. Let that be acknowledged. Income can rise substantially over a career lived inside employment. But income and ownership are entirely different things. Income is what you receive in exchange for your continued presence and effort. Ownership is what generates return in your absence. These are structurally different, and the system that employs you has absolutely no incentive to move you from one category to the other. Its incentive runs in precisely the opposite direction. No one trapped you. The structure simply kept you useful, and its design is not optimized for the freedom of the people who participate in it. It is optimized for continuity, for output, for stability, for the reliable production of value that flows upward through the structure toward those who hold ownership positions within it. The system does not scale people. It scales output. The system does not need you wealthy. It needs you reliable. This is perhaps the most important structural observation of everything I am sharing with you today. Wealth, genuine wealth of the kind that produces freedom and independence, is not an outcome the employment system is designed to deliver. The system does not need you wealthy. It needs you reliable. You are allowed to work, not allowed to escape. I want to return now to something important. Something I mentioned at the very beginning that deserves more careful attention. The emotional texture of what I'm describing. Because what is remarkable about this structure, what makes it so extraordinarily effective at perpetuating itself, is not that it is brutal. Brutality would be obvious. Brutality would provoke a response. What makes it effective is that it feels from inside it like progress. Small raise, small recognition, enough hope to continue. This is not manipulation in the crude sense. This is simply how the system maintains its participants, not through force, not through deception, through the precisely calibrated delivery of just enough positive reinforcement to sustain engagement without ever delivering the fundamental structural change that would constitute genuine freedom. The system does not need you defeated. It needs you hopeful. Let that be heard very clearly. A defeated person stops being productive. They become a burden, a drain, a problem to be managed or removed. But a hopeful person is extraordinarily productive. A hopeful person works harder than a comfortable one. They accept conditions they might otherwise question because they believe those conditions are temporary, transitional, the necessary path through to something better. They absorb inconvenience, sacrifice present comfort, delay gratification, all in service of a future state that the system has implied is accessible through continued effort and loyalty. A lifetime of labor produced income. It did not produce ownership, and that is not failure. That is the system functioning precisely as it was designed to function. You were not lazy. I want to say that directly and let it stand without qualification or softening. If you have spent years or decades inside a structure that promised advancement and delivered something other than freedom, that is not because you lack the qualities required for success. But compensation and full return are not the same thing. You were not incapable. Capability is everywhere in the workforce. The structure is full of capable people. What capability does inside an employment structure is not determine whether you escape it. It determines how high you rise within it. And rising within it, as we have already examined, is a fundamentally different thing from escaping it. The most capable employees frequently become the most deeply embedded, the most organizationally dependent, the most structurally constrained, because their capability makes them too valuable to the structure to be released from it easily, and the rewards offered to retain them are sufficient to make departure feel costly. The primary explanation is structural. The contract was never describing what it appeared to describe. It was describing access to participation in the system, not ownership of outcomes from the system. And those are fundamentally different things. You were contained. Containment always feels like effort, because effort inside a boundary never becomes expansion. Think about that carefully. Think about the difference between effort that compounds and effort that sustains. Effort that sustains is effort that keeps you functional, keeps you employed, keeps your income stable, keeps your life running. It is necessary and it is real, but it does not compound. It does not build towards something that eventually exceeds itself and begins generating return without the same level of continuous input. Effort that compounds is structurally different. It builds towards something that eventually operates with a degree of independence from the effort that created it. Ownership compresses this way. Certain skills compound this way. Certain relationships and structures compound this way. The system primarily requires the first kind. It will take as much of it as you can produce. It will reward it modestly and consistently. But it is not designed to help you build the second kind, because the second kind is what produces independence from the system, and the system has no structural interest in your independence from it. I have been speaking to you for some time now about what has been true, about what the structure looks like when examined without the softening lens of hope or the distorting lens of guilt. And I want to close by returning to the place I began, not to offer you a solution, because that is not what this conversation is, not to inspire you to act differently, because inspiration is not what you need when what is required is clear seeing. I want to close by removing something from you. Something that was never yours to carry and that you have been carrying for a long time without realizing it. The belief that where you are is a reflection of what you were, that the outcomes of your years of effort within a structure that was designed to contain you are somehow an accurate measurement of your worth, your intelligence, your discipline, your capacity. They are not. They are a measurement of the structure's effectiveness. They are a measurement of how well the system did what systems do, which is to convert human effort into structural value and retain that value within the structure rather than returning it to its source. You worked. The work was real. The sacrifice was real. The years were real. And where you arrived is also real. But the distance between what you expected and what arrived is not the distance between what you deserved and what you received. It is the distance between what the contract implied and what the contract was actually designed to deliver. And those are different distances entirely, not how do you succeed within the structure. But do you understand what the structure is? And so I want to end here. Not with encouragement, not with a pathway, not with the implication that now that you understand, everything is about to change. Because change is not what this conversation was about. This conversation was about seeing, about naming something that was always operating, quietly, consistently, beneath the surface of every job you took, every effort you made, every expectation you held about what your life was building toward. What I needed to tell you, what I believe you needed to hear, is this. You were not failing. You were held in place. You were never positioned to win.